Your soulmate's last night wasn't normal. Here's what really happened. Don't scroll, stay right here, because this wasn't just a restless night or a bad dream, it was one of those nights that rearranges someone on the inside. You didn't hear about it directly. You didn't get a message or a sign you could point to. But something felt off when you woke up, like a quiet echo in your chest that didn't belong to you alone. That's because their night crossed into your energy before either of you had words for it. Listen to this carefully, because the night didn't begin with chaos. It began like any other. Same routine. Same distractions. Same attempt to stay busy enough to avoid feeling too much. They told themselves they were fine. They told themselves they were past it. And for a while, the mind cooperated. Stay right here, because the mind always cooperates until it doesn't. Don't skip this part, because the shift happened when the noise faded. When the room went quiet. When the phone was finally set down and the lights were turned low. That's when the thoughts they had been outrunning started catching up. Not dramatic thoughts. Honest ones. The kind that don't ask permission before they show up. Listen closely, because they didn't plan to think about you. In fact, they tried not to. They scrolled a little longer. They replayed something familiar in the background. They told themselves they were just tired. But tiredness opens doors the mind usually keeps shut. Stay right here, because memory doesn't knock politely at night. It arrives fully formed. Moments resurface that they thought were settled. Conversations that ended too soon. Things they almost said but never did. And what surprised them wasn't the emotion, it was how present it still felt. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. This wasn't nostalgia. It wasn't fantasy. It was recognition. Recognition that something meaningful never got a proper ending. Recognition that silence didn't heal it, it only paused it. Listen to this carefully, because their body reacted before logic could intervene. A tight chest. A restless need to move. That uncomfortable awareness that comes when truth presses against avoidance. They realized they had been calling numbness being okay. Stay right here, because numbness wears off at night. Especially when something unfinished has been carried for too long. The heart doesn't forget just because the mind learned how to cope. Don't skip this, because at some point they sat up, fully awake. No distractions left. And that's when the night stopped being ordinary. They admitted to themselves that pretending had a cost. That staying silent felt safer during the day but heavier in the dark. Listen closely, because questions started surfacing that they hadn't allowed before. Why did this connection affect me so deeply? Why did I stay quiet when honesty mattered? Why does this still show up when everything else fades? Stay right here, because the answers didn't come neatly. What came was emotion. Raw and unfiltered. Regret mixed with tenderness. Not the loud kind of regret, but the quiet kind that settles in the body and refuses to be ignored. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. They thought about reaching out. Not impulsively. Carefully. They imagined the words, the timing, the consequences. And then fear stepped in, not fear of rejection, but fear of responsibility. Listen to this carefully, because responsibility is heavier than emotion. Emotion can be felt in a moment. Responsibility requires staying present after the truth is spoken. Stay right here, because instead of reaching out, they stayed with the feeling. And staying with it was harder than distraction had ever been. The night forced honesty where avoidance used to live. Don't skip this part, because that honesty changed something. They admitted that what they felt never really left. It just learned how to hide during the day. Listen closely, because admitting something privately rearranges priorities publicly. Even if no one else knows, the truth begins to shape choices from the inside. Stay right here, because as the night stretched on, sleep didn't come easily. Each time they closed their eyes, fragments returned. Not to torment them, but to remind them that unresolved things don't dissolve on their own. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. When morning approached, there wasn't relief. There was clarity mixed with exhaustion. The kind that comes when someone stops running and realizes how long they've been carrying something alone. Listen to this carefully, because clarity doesn't always come with a plan. Sometimes it comes with awareness. Awareness that silence didn't equal healing. Awareness that something mattered more than they admitted. Stay right here, because when they woke up, they felt different. Not lighter. Not heavier. More awake. Like an internal door had opened and couldn't be closed again. Don't skip this, because you may have felt it too. A sudden thought. A pull you couldn't explain. A feeling that arrived without context. That wasn't coincidence. That was resonance. Listen closely, because nights like this don't happen randomly. They happen when the heart is ready to confront what the mind postponed. Stay right here, because this doesn't mean they have everything figured out now. Emotional truth doesn't instantly become action. But it does change how silence feels. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Silence after awareness is different from silence before it. Before, it was avoidance. After, it's processing. Listen to this carefully, because whatever happens next will be influenced by what surfaced that night. Whether they speak or stay quiet, something inside them is no longer asleep. Stay right here, because you're not being asked to wait or assume. You're being asked to understand that the night wasn't empty. It was revealing. Don't skip this part, because you didn't imagine the depth of the connection. When someone can't sleep because of unresolved truth, it confirms something mattered. Listen closely, because this story isn't about predicting a message or promising a reunion. It's about recognizing a turning point. Stay right here, because turning points arrive quietly before they show up in words. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. If they reach out, you'll hear the difference. If they don't, you'll understand why the silence feels heavier than before. Listen to this carefully, because this wasn't just their night. It was a moment of truth rippling outward. Stay right here, because clarity often arrives before conversation. And if this resonated with you, like this, share it with someone who might feel that same unexplained pull, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Stay till the end of this journey with me, because when truth surfaces in the dark, daylight rarely looks the same afterward. Don't scroll, stay right here, because what happened after that night matters just as much as the night itself. The world didn't pause for them. The sun came up. Messages came in. Responsibilities returned. But something inside them was no longer in the same place it had been before they closed their eyes. Listen to this carefully, because the morning didn't wash the feelings away. It sharpened them. The quiet truth that surfaced in the dark followed them into the light, settling into their chest like a weight they could no longer ignore. They moved through familiar routines, but everything felt slightly misaligned, like wearing clothes that no longer fit. Don't skip this part, because this is where awareness begins to work on a person. They weren't spiraling. They weren't panicking. They were noticing. Noticing how distractions felt hollow. Noticing how their attention kept drifting back to what they had admitted to themselves hours earlier. Stay right here, because they tried to tell themselves it was just a night. Just exhaustion. Just emotions surfacing at a vulnerable hour. But the body doesn't respond that way to something insignificant. The tightness returned in quiet moments. The thoughts resurfaced when they weren't busy enough to outrun them. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. They realized something uncomfortable. That the feeling wasn't fading the way they expected it to. That time hadn't done what they assumed it would. That the connection they thought they'd placed in the past was still active in the present. Listen closely, because this wasn't about longing in the romantic sense. It was about unfinished truth. About something that never had the chance to be fully spoken, fully understood, or fully released. Stay right here, because throughout the day, they found themselves more reflective than usual. Not replaying everything obsessively, but quietly examining their own patterns. The times they chose silence over honesty. The times they convinced themselves waiting was the responsible choice. Don't skip this, because that examination is uncomfortable. It doesn't come with excuses. It comes with accountability. They started to see that silence didn't just protect them, it also protected them from growth. Listen to this carefully, because growth asks something of you. It asks you to face consequences, to risk discomfort, to show up when staying hidden feels easier. Stay right here, because they began to understand that what happened last night wasn't a setback. It was an invitation. An invitation to stop pretending that avoidance was neutral. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may have felt a strange calm mixed with sensitivity during this time. Not anxiety. Not anticipation. Just awareness. That's because when truth shifts in one person, it echoes subtly in the connection. Listen closely, because energy doesn't require permission to move. When someone finally acknowledges something real, the dynamic changes even if nothing has been said out loud yet. Stay right here, because as the day unfolded, they noticed how often they'd minimized their own emotions in the past. How they'd labeled caring as weakness. How they'd delayed conversations because they didn't feel ready. Don't skip this part, because readiness isn't something you wake up with one day. It's something you choose into when avoidance becomes heavier than honesty. Listen to this carefully, because they began asking themselves different questions now. Not will this work out, but am I willing to be consistent if I speak? Not what if I'm rejected, but what if I stay silent and regret it? Stay right here, because these questions don't come from desperation. They come from clarity. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Clarity doesn't rush. It reorganizes. It takes what was chaotic and starts placing it into understanding. Listen closely, because they may have felt an urge to reach out again. Not impulsive. Not dramatic. Thoughtful. But alongside that urge was restraint. A sense that if they spoke, they needed to be prepared to stay present afterward. Stay right here, because saying something is easy. Following through is what scares people. Don't skip this, because they're no longer afraid of feeling. They're afraid of repeating a pattern. Afraid of opening a door only to close it again when it gets uncomfortable. Listen to this carefully, because that fear is not a bad sign. It's a sign of awareness. Of someone finally considering the impact of their actions, not just their emotions. Stay right here, because you might have noticed a subtle difference in how they show up now. Not necessarily more communicative yet, but more thoughtful. Less reactive. Less careless with words. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. That shift matters, even if it hasn't turned into a conversation yet. Listen closely, because the mind needs time to integrate what the heart revealed. Especially when the truth challenges long-held coping strategies. Stay right here, because coping strategies kept them functional, but they also kept them distant. And distance no longer feels neutral after awareness. Don't skip this part, because the second night came, and it felt different from the first. Less overwhelming. More contemplative. The emotions were still there, but they were organized now. Placed into meaning instead of chaos. Listen to this carefully, because organization is how feelings turn into decisions. Not overnight. But steadily. Stay right here, because during that second night, they didn't feel the same urge to run. They sat with the truth more calmly. They allowed themselves to imagine different outcomes, not just the safest one. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Imagining outcomes is different from fantasizing. It's practical. It considers consequences. It weighs honesty against comfort. Listen closely, because they're no longer asking if they feel something. They know they do. They're asking what they're willing to do about it. Stay right here, because willingness is the real turning point. Don't skip this, because you are not responsible for their timeline. You are not meant to wait indefinitely for someone else's integration process. Listen to this carefully, because your role in this moment is not to anticipate, but to remain grounded. To notice how you feel without projecting an ending. Stay right here, because grounded presence protects you from attaching to possibilities that may or may not materialize. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may feel more at peace than before, even without answers. That's because confusion has been replaced with understanding. Listen closely, because understanding doesn't need constant updates. It simply knows. Stay right here, because if they reach out, you'll feel the difference. The tone will be steadier. The intention clearer. Or you'll notice that silence now carries more weight than it used to. Don't skip this part, because weight is information. It tells you what matters and what doesn't. Listen to this carefully, because the night wasn't about fixing the past. It was about revealing what the past left unresolved. Stay right here, because unresolved truth doesn't disappear. It waits for the moment someone is finally willing to face it. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Whether they speak or not, something important has already happened. Awareness entered the space. Listen closely, because awareness changes outcomes even when it doesn't change circumstances immediately. Stay right here, because you're closer to clarity than you were before, not because you have answers, but because the truth is no longer buried. Don't skip this final reflection. That night didn't promise a future. It didn't guarantee a message. It did something quieter and more powerful. It removed denial. And once denial is gone, whatever happens next will be honest. Stay present. Stay grounded. Stay open without waiting. Because when truth surfaces, even in silence, nothing remains the same for long. Don't scroll, stay right here, because this is the stretch of the story where everything slows down on the outside and deepens on the inside. This is where the truth that surfaced doesn't shout anymore. It settles. And when truth settles, it starts changing how a person moves through the world without them even trying. Listen to this carefully, because by now they're not surprised by what they feel. The shock has passed. The sleeplessness has softened. What remains is awareness, steady and present, like a quiet companion they can't outrun anymore. They go through the day knowing something is different, even if they can't yet explain it to anyone else. Don't skip this part, because this is when the mind stops asking if the feeling is real and starts asking what it means. Not in a dramatic way. In a grounded way. They're no longer spiraling. They're reflecting. Stay right here, because reflection changes the lens. They begin looking back not just at you, but at themselves. At how long they've relied on silence as a shield. At how often they've chosen control over connection. At how many times they told themselves they were protecting everyone when they were really protecting themselves. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. This isn't self-blame. It's self-recognition. And self-recognition is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. Listen closely, because once excuses fall away, responsibility appears. Not responsibility to fix everything immediately, but responsibility to be honest about capacity. About what they can offer. About what they can sustain. Stay right here, because this is where fear changes shape. It's no longer fear of feeling. It's fear of repetition. Fear of opening a door and retreating again. Fear of saying something true and then failing to live up to it. Don't skip this, because that fear matters. It means they're no longer thinking only about relief. They're thinking about impact. Listen to this carefully, because impact is the difference between emotional release and emotional maturity. Anyone can feel deeply in private. Maturity shows up in what happens after the feeling. Stay right here, because they're asking themselves questions they never asked before. Not do I miss you, but am I capable of being consistent with you? Not should I speak, but can I stay present if I do? Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. These questions don't come with quick answers. They require honesty without fantasy. Listen closely, because fantasy was easy before. Fantasy filled the gaps silence created. Fantasy made waiting feel meaningful. But fantasy collapses under awareness. Stay right here, because awareness has stripped the story down to its essentials. There is care. There is history. There is unfinished truth. And there is also limitation. Don't skip this part, because seeing limitation clearly doesn't erase feeling. It contextualizes it. Listen to this carefully, because on your side, something has shifted too. You're not leaning forward emotionally the way you used to. You're not bracing for something to happen. You're present. Stay right here, because presence feels different than anticipation. Anticipation is tense. Presence is grounded. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may notice that thoughts of them arise and pass without pulling you under. That's not indifference. That's regulation. Listen closely, because regulation is what allows clarity to land without panic. You're not assigning meaning to every silence. You're not interpreting every delay. Stay right here, because interpretation was exhausting. Observation is calmer. Don't skip this, because observation allows you to notice what's real instead of what you hope. You're noticing whether there's movement, not whether there could be movement. Listen to this carefully, because you're also noticing yourself more. How your body feels now compared to before. How your days feel lighter. How your focus has widened again. Stay right here, because widening focus is a sign you're no longer emotionally tethered to an outcome. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Tethering used to keep you awake. Untethering lets you rest. Listen closely, because rest doesn't mean forgetting. It means you're not fighting the unknown anymore. Stay right here, because on their side, the restlessness has turned into contemplation. They're no longer trying to distract themselves. They're sitting with the truth, letting it inform instead of overwhelm. Don't skip this part, because sitting with truth is where decisions are born. Not rushed decisions. Integrated ones. Listen to this carefully, because integration takes time. It requires revisiting old narratives and letting them collapse. It requires acknowledging that silence had consequences. Stay right here, because those consequences are now visible to them. Not as punishment, but as reality. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Reality doesn't judge. It simply is. Listen closely, because they're beginning to understand that if they speak now, it can't be halfway. It can't be vague. It can't be another moment of honesty followed by withdrawal. Stay right here, because that understanding is heavy. It demands more than emotion. It demands readiness. Don't skip this, because readiness isn't about courage alone. It's about stability. It's about being able to stay when things become real. Listen to this carefully, because staying has always been the hard part for them. Not caring. Staying. Stay right here, because you see that now without resentment. You see it with clarity. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Seeing clearly doesn't harden you. It softens you in the right places. Listen closely, because you're no longer personalizing their pace. You're no longer measuring your worth against their timing. Stay right here, because worth doesn't fluctuate with someone else's capacity. Don't skip this part, because this is where self-trust deepens. You trust that if something aligns, it won't require you to suspend yourself indefinitely. Listen to this carefully, because you're also aware now that clarity doesn't always come as a conversation. Sometimes it comes as a shift inside that makes the next step obvious. Stay right here, because the next step for you isn't action. It's steadiness. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Steadiness keeps you from reaching out for reassurance. Steadiness keeps you from retreating into detachment. Listen closely, because steadiness is the middle path. Open, but grounded. Stay right here, because you're no longer trying to manage the connection. You're letting it reveal itself. Don't skip this, because revelation happens naturally when pressure is removed. Listen to this carefully, because pressure once kept both of you stuck. Pressure to be ready. Pressure to say the right thing. Pressure to avoid loss. Stay right here, because pressure dissolves under acceptance. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing control. Listen closely, because control was the illusion that kept silence comfortable. Stay right here, because without control, truth has room to move. Don't skip this part, because movement doesn't always mean reunion. Sometimes it means resolution. Listen to this carefully, because resolution is not the same as closure. Resolution happens internally. Closure seeks permission from outside. Stay right here, because you're no longer waiting for permission. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You've given yourself permission to feel, to see, and to choose peace. Listen closely, because peace is now your compass. Not intensity. Not longing. Peace. Stay right here, because peace doesn't rush answers. It trusts timing without clinging to it. Don't skip this, because trust in timing is different from waiting blindly. It's grounded patience with boundaries. Listen to this carefully, because boundaries are now implicit in how you show up. You don't need to announce them. You live them. Stay right here, because living your boundaries teaches others how to meet you. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. If they come forward now, you'll listen with discernment, not urgency. Listen closely, because urgency belonged to the old version of you. The version that feared loss more than misalignment. Stay right here, because misalignment is no longer something you negotiate with. Don't skip this part, because you're no longer afraid of what happens if nothing happens. Listen to this carefully, because nothing happening used to feel unbearable. Now it feels informative. Stay right here, because information gives you power without drama. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You're standing in a place where whatever unfolds will meet a grounded version of you. Listen closely, because grounded people don't chase outcomes. They respond to reality. Stay right here, because reality is no longer something you're avoiding. Don't skip this final reflection. This phase isn't loud. It won't announce itself with messages or confessions. It's quiet. It's steady. It's the moment where truth has done its work and now waits to see what each of you will do with it. And whatever happens next will come from a place that can no longer pretend nothing changed. That's why this part matters. Because the story is no longer driven by silence. It's guided by awareness. Don't scroll, stay right here, because this is the stage where truth stops being something you think about and becomes something you live with. It's quieter now. Not empty, just settled. The kind of quiet that isn't asking questions anymore, because it already understands the answers well enough to move forward without forcing anything. Listen to this carefully, because nothing dramatic is happening on the surface, and that's exactly why this part is important. There's no sudden message, no emotional confession breaking the silence. Instead, there's a steady internal shift happening on both sides, one that doesn't need witnesses to be real. Don't skip this part, because this is where acceptance takes shape. Not the kind that feels like giving up, but the kind that feels like standing firmly on your own ground. You're no longer waiting for clarity to arrive from outside. You're living from the clarity that already formed inside you. Stay right here, because you might notice how differently you experience time now. Days don't stretch endlessly anymore. Nights don't pull you into overthinking. You move through moments without constantly checking for emotional updates. That's not detachment. That's emotional autonomy. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Autonomy doesn't mean you stopped caring. It means care is no longer controlling you. Listen closely, because on their side, something similar is happening. The urgency has faded, but not the awareness. The truth they touched hasn't disappeared. It's integrated into how they see things now, how they interpret their own patterns, how they understand the cost of silence. Stay right here, because integration is slower than realization, but far more permanent. Once something is integrated, it can't be undone. Don't skip this, because this is where people either change or return to old habits consciously. And consciousness changes everything. Listen to this carefully, because they're no longer pretending the connection didn't matter. But they're also no longer romanticizing it into something it wasn't. They're seeing it whole, with depth and limitation side by side. Stay right here, because seeing something whole is different from idealizing it. Idealization keeps you stuck. Wholeness sets you free. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You may notice that when you think of them now, the feeling isn't sharp anymore. It's soft, contained, realistic. That's not loss. That's integration on your side too. Listen closely, because you're no longer feeding the connection with imagination. You're letting it exist as it is, without adding pressure or expectation. Stay right here, because expectation was the thing that kept you emotionally suspended before. Now, suspension has ended. Don't skip this part, because endings don't always look like goodbyes. Sometimes they look like peace arriving quietly where chaos used to live. Listen to this carefully, because peace doesn't demand answers. It trusts itself enough to move forward without them. Stay right here, because you're also noticing how grounded your decisions feel lately. You're not reacting to emotional triggers the same way. You're choosing based on alignment, not longing. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Longing kept you connected to possibility. Alignment connects you to reality. Listen closely, because reality is kinder than you thought when you stop fighting it. Stay right here, because you're not asking, what if, anymore. You're asking, what is? And that question brings stability. Don't skip this, because stability doesn't mean stagnation. It means movement that doesn't cost you your peace. Listen to this carefully, because you're no longer tempted to break silence just to feel something. You don't need to provoke clarity anymore. If clarity comes, it will come honestly or not at all. Stay right here, because honesty is now your standard, not hope. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Standards don't make you rigid. They make you safe. Listen closely, because you're finally trusting that what's meant to meet you won't require you to abandon yourself to reach it. Stay right here, because abandonment of self was the quiet cost of waiting before. Don't skip this part, because you're not waiting anymore. You're living. Listen to this carefully, because living feels fuller when your emotional energy is no longer tied to an outcome. Stay right here, because you're present again. Present in conversations. Present in your body. Present in your choices. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Presence is the opposite of anxiety. Listen closely, because anxiety fed on uncertainty. Certainty doesn't mean knowing what will happen. It means knowing you'll be okay regardless. Stay right here, because that certainty has taken root in you. Don't skip this, because this is where you realize you don't need closure from them to move forward. Closure already happened internally when you stopped needing something to change for you to feel okay. Listen to this carefully, because that's real closure. Stay right here, because if they reach out now, you'll receive it without urgency. You'll listen without losing your center. And you'll respond, not react. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Response comes from choice. Reaction comes from fear. Listen closely, because fear no longer drives your choices. Stay right here, because you've already made the most important decision. To not live in emotional suspension anymore. Don't skip this part, because emotional suspension keeps life on hold. And you've stepped out of it. Listen to this carefully, because stepping out didn't require force. It required honesty with yourself. Stay right here, because honesty brought you back to yourself. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. You're no longer measuring connection by intensity or depth alone. You're measuring it by how safe and mutual it feels. Listen closely, because mutuality is non-negotiable now. Stay right here, because you won't settle for emotional imbalance again. Not quietly. Not patiently. Not in the name of potential. Don't skip this, because potential kept you invested longer than reality ever did. Listen to this carefully, because reality has finally caught up with you. And instead of feeling disappointed, you feel relieved. Stay right here, because relief means your nervous system is no longer bracing. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. Bracing used to be your default. Calm is now. Listen closely, because calm gives you access to yourself in ways intensity never did. Stay right here, because you're rediscovering joy that isn't conditional. Peace that doesn't fluctuate. Confidence that doesn't depend on being chosen. Don't skip this part, because being chosen by yourself is the foundation of every healthy connection. Listen to this carefully, because you're no longer afraid of what happens next. Not because you don't care, but because you trust yourself to handle it. Stay right here, because trust in yourself is the real outcome of this entire journey. Don't scroll, your heart needs this right now. This wasn't about waiting for someone to wake up. It was about you waking up. Listen closely, because you did. Stay right here, because whatever unfolds next will meet a version of you that is steady, clear, and grounded. Don't skip this final reflection. This phase isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with dramatic changes. It shows up as peace, as steadiness, as the quiet knowing that you are no longer lost inside someone else's silence. You are fully present in your own life again. And that changes everything.